The sky was a pale steel gray, a lifeless color that matched the soldiers' silence. At the military transport dock, the air smelled of metal and diesel, and the muffled sounds of engines hummed like distant thunder. Lieutenant Daniel Vargas stood motionless near the edge of the runway, his boots dust-covered and worn, his body upright and alert despite the aching fatigue crawling through every tendon. 6 months. That's how long he had been gone. 6 months of relentless operations on a mist-covered borderland where silence was never peace and stillness always meant danger. He had survived traps, bullets, freezing rain, and the sight of brothers carried away under canvas tarps. His fingers had memorized the feel of his rifle better than the contours of his daughter's face. Yet today, he was not holding a weapon. In his right hand, he clutched a small stuffed bunny, brown, floppy-eared, with a tear along one seam that he had sewn himself with battlefield thread and surgical precision. This was not a return filled with flowers or banners. He hadn't even told his family he was coming back today. No, Daniel's first stop wasn't home. It was Oakwood Elementary School. It wasn't even 5 o'clock yet, but he knew Mia would still be there. Tuesdays meant extra classes. Math remediation, the school had said in its monthly bulletin. He had read it twice while eating canned beans behind a sandbag wall. The city was calm. Suburban life looked surreal to him now, mothers holding toddlers. Teens on skateboards, sprinklers spraying golden arcs over freshly cut lawns. His boots, cracked and darkened with sweat and dust, stood out like scars on polished tile as he walked through the school's side entrance. No guard stopped him. No receptionist greeted him. A single bell had rung minutes ago. The building was nearly empty, the silence inside the school was haunting. Posters of smiling suns and rainbow alphabets lined the walls, but they felt faded, like background noise to something unspoken. As Daniel passed the trophy case, he noticed a certificate with Mia's name, most improved in reading. She had won something. He hadn't been there, his steps were deliberate. Not hurried. He had marched through minefields with less tension than he felt now. Then he heard it, a faint whisper. He turned the corner. Classroom 4B stood at the far end of the hallway, its door slightly ajar. Beyond the crack, golden afternoon light slanted through the windows and onto the floor, dividing it into patches of warmth and shadow. The hallway was dead quiet, no janitor's radio. No echoing laughter, no scolding teacher. Daniel moved to the door without making a sound. Inside, he saw her, Mia. She was slumped at the back of the classroom, tiny in her seat, her arms folded tightly across her chest, her body curled inward as though trying to vanish. Her hair hung on either side of her face, obscuring her expression. Beside her, Miss Holloway, Mia's teacher, stood hunched over, her face close to Mia's ear. Her lips were moving slowly, deliberately. Her hand rested on the little girl's back. Light framed them both, but the scene radiated no warmth. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his instincts, forged in the chaos of war, screamed a silent warning. Something was wrong. He pushed the door open, it creaked just slightly, like a sigh from a weary building. Mia jolted upright, her eyes found him. Red-rimmed, swollen, dazed. Then, slowly, recognition dawned. Dad. She whispered. He crossed the room in 3 strides. Mia, what's going on? She shook her head. Nothing. I'm fine. Just tired. Miss Holloway straightened and smiled. Her lipstick was too red, her hair too perfect. Little Mia's just a bit emotional today, she said in a warm tone that somehow felt icy. She missed her father. She had trouble with a math problem and got overwhelmed. I was simply comforting her. Daniel looked her in the eye. There was nothing to accuse her of, not yet. But something about her smile didn't sit right. It slipped for a fraction of a second, then returned like a mask clicking back into place. He nodded, masking his doubt. "Thank you for staying with her." He turned back to Mia and held out the bunny. She took it instantly, clutching it against her chest like it was oxygen. As they walked out, her grip on his hand was tighter than usual. Not like the excited squeezes she gave before skipping into the house. This was the grip of someone falling. Desperate. Anchoring, Daniel glanced back. Miss Holloway was still standing at the door, still smiling, but her eyes were no longer kind. They were eyes he had seen in too many interrogations, calculated, hardened, used to control. Miss Holloway stood in the center of classroom 4B, staring at the door that had just closed behind Daniel and Mia. Her hands, clasped in front of her, remained still, but her fingers twitched ever so slightly, like the tip of a serpent's tail before it strikes. The late afternoon sun streamed through the blinds in narrow slits, painting horizontal lines across her face. She moved her head just enough to avoid the glare, stepping into a patch of shadow that suited her better. Behind her, the room was silent. The desks were perfectly arranged, books stacked neatly, the faint smell of dry erase markers lingering in the air. But something had changed. The atmosphere had shifted. The presence of that man, the soldier, still lingered. Invisible but heavy, like smoke after an explosion, her eyes drifted toward Mia's now empty desk. The small seat with a unicorn sticker on the backrest, the pencil case zipped neatly shut, and the math workbook left open to a page of unfinished fractions. Mia's bunny keychain was gone, tucked now under her arm, fleeing this room like it couldn't stand another minute. Miss Holloway turned her back on the room, walking to her desk with careful steps. Each heel click against the tile was precise, deliberate. She sat down, exhaled, and opened her planner. Her fingers moved across the paper, ticking boxes, noting reminders, writing down times. Control. Order. Routine. It calmed her. But her mind was elsewhere. That man, Lieutenant Vargas, he was dangerous. Not in the traditional sense. No, he hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't made threats. But the way he looked at her. The way his gaze peeled back her smile like it was wallpaper, he knew. He didn't need proof yet. But he knew something wasn't right. She closed the planner and folded her hands. Her jaw clenched. No one would believe a man like that over a teacher like her. Decorated, beloved, with letters of recommendation from 2 principals and a spotless file. The parents trusted her. The staff respected her. She had weathered rumors before, subtle ones, whispers in hallways. But none had ever stuck. She was too careful. Too practiced. Still, she would have to be even more cautious now. Especially with Mia, back at the Vargas house, the air was warm and still. Clara, Daniel's sister-in-law, was preparing tea in the kitchen, listening quietly for the sound of Mia's laughter. It didn't come. Mia was upstairs, lying sideways on her bed, hugging the bunny like it could make the day disappear. Daniel sat nearby in the corner of the room, elbows resting on his knees, watching his daughter breathe. The room had soft pink walls, a bookshelf filled with half-read fairy tales, and drawings taped to the closet door, most of them old, from before her mother passed away. "You don't have to talk," Daniel said gently. "You can just be." Mia didn't reply. He reached out slowly, brushing a lock of hair from her face. Her eyes remained closed, but her hand reached out and grasped his sleeve. "I missed you," she murmured. "I'm here now." Outside the door, Clara paused with a tray of tea. Her hand rested on the doorknob, heart heavy with guilt. She had seen Mia act strange for weeks. Flinching. Going quiet. But she had told herself it was just grief, just the loss of her mother. And maybe that was part of it. But now, she wasn't so sure. She backed away, deciding not to interrupt. In her heart, something else had begun to shift. A sense of responsibility. Of shame. Of urgency. The next morning, Clara dropped Mia off at school while Daniel stayed behind. He sat at the dining table, a blank notebook open before him. He titled the first page, Mia, Observation Log. He started listing dates, times, and signs. March 17th, scratch on wrist. Said she fell. March 25th, bruise on shoulder. Said she bumped into a friend. April 3rd, red marks around neck. Said the collar was tight. April 9th, tired eyes. Sleepy expression. April 12th, bruised left hand. Said she tripped, all on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Holloway's class days. He underlined the teacher's name, Miss Holloway, then drew a circle around it. The war wasn't over. It had simply changed battlegrounds. Aaron had always been quiet. In a classroom filled with noisy chatter and spontaneous giggles, he was the stillness in the storm. He sat near the windows, third row from the back. From his seat, he could see both the hallway and the phoenix tree outside. Aaron had a habit of observing. It wasn't that he wanted to be invisible, he just found safety in silence. He first noticed something off with Mia in early March. At home, Aaron opened a secret document on his laptop, observation_Mia.txt. He logged the dates and behaviors, just bullet points at first. As time went on, he added more detail. Sometimes he even sketched diagrams of the classroom, noting where people sat, who interacted with whom. Mia was always alone. Isolated not by others, but by something that made her fold inward like a closing flower. He recorded everything. He didn't know why he was doing it, only that it felt important. Then one day, during math class, it happened again. That day, the sun had cast long shadows through the blinds, and the classroom smelled like pencil shavings and dry glue. Mia came in late. Her ponytail was loose, her backpack zipped halfway, and her eyes. They looked hollow. She sat 2 seats in front of him, and throughout the lesson, she didn't raise her hand once. Her usual bright voice was gone. He noticed the way she flinched when Miss Holloway passed behind her. He noticed the way she rubbed her left wrist under the desk. As if something ached, he began keeping track. Miss Holloway walked behind Mia, speaking quietly as she passed. Aaron saw Mia's back stiffen. Her pencil slipped from her hand. Holloway's lips were barely moving, but Aaron had seen the same posture when she scolded kids up close. A softness that wasn't kind. A tone that didn't need to be loud to be cruel. Mia didn't say a word, but her eyes. They looked darker when she blinked. That day, after school, Aaron stayed behind, pretending to organize his bag. Holloway was near the back corner, murmuring again. This time, Aaron activated the recording shortcut on his phone. He didn't get much. Just a few muffled words. But he saved the file. At home, he named it, Mia_voice_1.wave. He didn't know what to do with it, but he knew someone had to keep a record. Nurse Anna always noticed things. She wasn't the kind of school nurse who handed out band-aids and lollipops and forgot the rest. She had once worked at a city trauma clinic before transferring to education. That background had taught her to read bruises, to distinguish between play wounds and fear. She had seen Mia 3 times in 2 months. March 17th, scratch on right wrist. March 25th, shoulder bruise. April 3rd, red marks around neck. April 12, bruise on left hand. The explanations were always vague. I fell. I tripped. I ran into someone. Anna had started a private log. She asked gentle questions. Mia always answered politely. But her eyes darted away. Her voice trembled on certain syllables. That told Anna more than any bruise could. On the 5th visit, Anna asked, "Did someone do this?" Mia shook her head quickly. "No, I just fell." Anna sighed, handed her an ice pack, and wrote the visit in her folder. The file was getting thick. She brought it up during the staff wellness meeting, hinting at patterns. But no one wanted to listen. The principal brushed it off. Children get scrapes all the time. Holloway smiled and nodded. Mia is a delicate child, but she's imaginative. That night, Anna stayed late. She pulled every injury report for Mia since January. She matched them to the class schedule. Almost all happened on Holloway's days. She circled the teacher's name in red ink. Elsewhere, Miss Gomez, the school librarian, had her own suspicions. She had noticed Mia's increasing solitude. Once a curious reader who asked questions about every book, Mia now visited the library only to sit in the corner. Her eyes didn't follow the text. They drifted. Gomez saw it. She tried to engage. "Mia, would you like to pick out a new story?" "No thank you, Miss Gomez," the girl replied softly, not looking up. It wasn't shyness. It was withdrawal, so she started asking other students. Carefully. Casually. One boy admitted that Mia often sat alone during lunch. Another said, "Miss Holloway gets mad at her a lot. Like, really close to her face. But she smiles when other teachers walk by." Gomez reported it once. Nothing happened, so she started taking notes too. Then, one day, Aaron approached her. He handed her a blue USB. "I think this matters," he said. Inside was the recording. Gomez listened. Holloway's voice, low and sharp. "No one will believe you. You're just a kid." It sent a chill down her spine. She met with Nurse Anna the next day. Together, they formed a plan. This time, they wouldn't stay silent. Daniel stood alone in the hallway between classrooms 4A and 4B. From behind a wide support pillar, he watched Holloway with measured breath. She was gently correcting a student's uniform collar, her voice light and pleasant. Other parents passed by, nodding in admiration. No one questioned her, but Daniel wasn't looking at the woman. He was reading the space between her movements, the slight pause after a parent walked by, the quick, nearly invisible flick of her eyes toward the shadows where he stood. She knew someone was watching. Back home, he reviewed the files Nurse Anna had quietly shared. Mia's name appeared too many times. And too often, the injuries lined up with Holloway's schedule. March 17th. March 25th. April 3rd. April 12th. Always on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he sketched it all on paper, a spider web. In the center, Holloway. Around her, he mapped every incident, every sign: withdrawal, avoidance, bruises, fatigue. He added names. Gomez. Anna. Aaron. Clara. Witnesses. Now he needed action. That evening, Daniel called a quiet meeting. Clara arrived first, her hands shaking slightly. "I didn't know what to think," she admitted. "I thought she just missed her mom. But I saw her shrink when Holloway entered the room." Anna followed, calm but serious. "This is systemic. Mia's not the only one." Miss Gomez placed the blue USB on the table. "This recording. She threatens students. Tells them no one will believe them. Daniel nodded. It's enough to raise hell. But we do this right. No mistakes. Anna added, we need more. More students. More voices. Something undeniable. I have another child, she said. Said she didn't want to sit near Mia anymore. Not because of Mia, but because of Holloway's glares. Daniel clenched his fists. This ends now. The next morning, Daniel didn't take Mia to school, he let Clara do that while he prepared. He packed a folder, timelines, nurse reports, USBs, audio transcripts, names, observations. He had faced ambushes in foreign jungles. He had survived days without sleep. But this mission twisted his gut more than any war, because this time, it was about his daughter. At the principal's office, he was calm. I'd like a private meeting, he told the secretary. It's urgent. She blinked, unsure, but nodded. I'll check her schedule. He didn't push. Just smiled, but he never took his eyes off her computer screen. That same morning, Mia walked into class differently. She didn't sprint. She didn't slouch. She walked at a steady pace, holding her lunchbox with both hands. The classroom felt colder than usual. But she was not. Aaron watched her. For the first time in weeks, she met his gaze, just briefly. But it was enough. Miss Gomez walked over during lunch and sat next to Mia by the window. This spot still gets the nicest light, she said. Mia nodded. Then Gomez leaned closer and whispered, someone is standing on your side now. Mia paused. Her hand holding the chopsticks trembled just a little less. Meanwhile, Daniel reviewed every recording on the USB. Each whisper, each tone, each silence between phrases. One particular phrase hit him like a bullet, they're kids. No one will believe them. He sent it immediately to Anna, Gomez, and Clara. No commentary. Just the file. Gomez replied first, we'll add it to the file. Anna, I'll contact a child protection lawyer. Clara, do you want me there when we talk to the board? Daniel's reply was simple, yes. This time, we don't flinch. That night, after dinner, Daniel found Mia brushing her bunny's fur gently with a small toy comb. I got a high score today, she said. He smiled. I'm proud of you. She looked up, then added, I raised my hand. Twice. Daniel knelt beside her. Sweetheart, you're strong. She nodded, then placed the bunny down. I think I can sleep without hugging him tonight. Daniel didn't cry, but something warm and fierce filled his chest. He kissed her forehead. You're growing up. And in his heart, he made a promise. Tomorrow, I walk into that school as more than a father. I walk in as the storm they never expected. Tuesday morning arrived with a subtle change in the air. Oakwood Elementary looked the same on the surface, freshly painted fences, trimmed hedges, children bustling into classrooms, but beneath it, something simmered. Daniel Vargas walked through the front gate with his back straight and sleeves rolled up. He didn't wear his military jacket today. No medals. No signs of rank. But everything about his posture said, Commander. Clara walked beside him, holding a leather folder. Inside were printed timelines, injury logs, transcribed recordings, witness notes. Every page had been checked, every detail ready. Principal Morton greeted them with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mr. Vargas, Clara. How can I help you this morning? We'd like to schedule a private meeting, Daniel replied calmly. Today. The principal glanced at the secretary. We're fully booked. Clara opened the folder, pulled out a printed copy of the student injury report log. Then perhaps you'd like to take a look at this timeline first. Morton scanned the document. His smile faltered. "Come in," he said. Inside the principal's office, the air was heavier. Daniel laid out each document, each connection. He explained Holloway's class schedule and how Mia's injuries matched each date. Clara added context about Mia's behavior at home. Gomez's witness statement followed, detailing the odd change in library habits. Then came the recording. Morton listened. Holloway's voice echoed from the laptop. "No one will believe you. You're just a kid." Silence. Morton exhaled. This is serious." "We're aware," Daniel replied. "Do you want her fired?" Morton asked. "We want an independent investigation," Clara said. "We want safety. And we want you to listen." Later that day, Daniel stepped outside the building to call Gomez. "It's moving," he said. Gomez replied, "I spoke to 2 other parents. They're ready to talk. We can gather statements by Thursday." "Good." That evening, Mia did her homework at the kitchen table. Daniel sat nearby, reading silently but watching her with side glances. She hummed to herself softly, unconsciously tapping her pencil. He smiled. Outside, the wind picked up, the storm was near. By Wednesday morning, something unexpected happened. A post appeared anonymously on the Oakwood Elementary Parents Forum. "Do you really know who's teaching your child every day?" It included no names. No accusations. Just questions. Questions like, has your child's behavior changed since January? Have they avoided talking about their classroom? Have they shown unexplained injuries? By 9:30 a.m., it had 200 views. By noon, it had 800. In classroom 4B, Miss Holloway stood at the whiteboard, teaching geography. Her voice didn't waver. But her eyes kept flicking toward the window. She felt it. The shift. The temperature change in the glances of parents, the stiffness in the staff room. Aaron sat quietly at his desk, watching Mia. She didn't look scared today, she looked focused. During lunch, he approached her. "I heard what she said yesterday," he whispered. "About you being stupid. I recorded it." Mia paused. Then, very slowly, she nodded. She didn't thank him. But her eyes were no longer downcast. Meanwhile, Gomez, Clara, and Anna gathered parent testimonies. Each came hesitantly. One father whose son had started bedwetting, one mother whose daughter flinched at every touch, another whose child begged not to go to school. None had proof. But all had one name in common: Holloway. Principal Morton reviewed the mounting documents. He convened the school's disciplinary board. Thursday afternoon, a hearing was scheduled. Daniel prepared like he was heading into battle, and in a way, he was. He looked at the stuffed bunny on Mia's pillow, then at the photo of his late wife beside it. "This is for both of you," he whispered. Thursday, 3 p.m., the conference room at Oakwood Elementary had been converted for a special hearing. A long, rectangular table stood in the center, flanked by chairs. The logo of the District 17 Board of Education loomed above the whiteboard, watching like a silent judge. At one end sat Principal Morton, his hands folded. Next to him were 2 representatives from the school board, a legal observer, and a child welfare liaison. On the other side sat Miss Holloway, poised and still, wearing a light purple vest and a tight, professional bun. Her face looked calm, but a thin sheen of sweat shimmered at her hairline. Daniel entered last, carrying the thick file. He placed it gently on the table. "We're not here to attack," he began. "We're here to protect." Miss Gomez presented first. She spoke clearly, professionally, but her words carried quiet weight. "This child used to be joyful, curious. She now isolates herself. I've observed this change firsthand. She handed over the USB, the legal observer plugged it in, Holloway's voice played, "They're just kids. No one will believe them." A murmur spread through the room. Nurse Anna followed with medical records, each one signed, dated, consistent. Patterns of physical harm that align specifically with the class schedule. "I've worked in trauma wards. I don't make accusations lightly." Clara spoke next, her voice trembling. "I'm Mia's aunt. I thought she was just grieving her mother. But what I've seen is fear. A kind of shrinking I can't ignore." Finally, Daniel stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I've fought in jungles where no one spoke my language. I've faced ambushes from men who didn't care if I made it home. But nothing prepared me for watching my daughter flinch at a woman who should have protected her." He paused. "This isn't just about Mia. It's about silence. About teachers who go unchecked because they operate just under the threshold of proof." He handed the timeline forward. One board member, Mr. Halford, tapped his pen slowly. "We've consulted education law," he said. "Repeated psychological intimidation or physical harm, indirect or not, qualifies as school abuse." He looked directly at Holloway. "Can you explain why 3 students avoid you? Why your previous students also noted similar complaints?" Holloway's mouth opened, then closed. The silence was louder than any defense. The board adjourned the hearing at 5:17 p.m. They would deliberate overnight. No ruling was made that day, but outside the room, Daniel looked at Clara, Anna, and Gomez. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Something had shifted, and it could not be undone. Friday morning, the sun rose gently over Oakwood Elementary, casting golden light over the playground. Children arrived with lunchboxes, backpacks, and sleepy smiles. Everything looked normal. Almost too normal, but inside the principal's office, change had already begun. At 8:03 a.m., the board reconvened. Principal Morton arrived first, briefcase in hand. The child welfare liaison followed, then Gomez, Anna, and Clara. Daniel entered last, holding a sealed envelope. His face was unreadable. At 8:15, the final board member arrived and shut the door. The deliberation lasted 30 minutes. At 8:47 a.m., the door opened again. Morton stepped into the hallway, adjusted his glasses, and nodded at Daniel. "You may come in." Miss Holloway stood at the end of the table. Her hair was slightly undone. The purple vest was gone. She looked tired. The board representative cleared his throat. "After careful consideration of the testimonies, physical evidence, and recorded materials, the board has concluded that Miss Holloway's conduct, while not overtly criminal, constitutes psychological intimidation and a pattern of emotionally unsafe behavior." Daniel watched her face. She didn't flinch. "As such," the board continued, "we recommend immediate removal from active teaching duty pending further investigation by district education authorities." There was no applause. No sighs of relief. Just stillness. Then Gomez stood and handed a sealed letter to Morton. "This is from a coalition of 12 parents. Requesting an open forum and an independent mental health review for all students in Class 4B. Clara added softly, "They want healing. Not just justice." Miss Holloway left the building by the side exit. She didn't speak to anyone. No students saw her leave. No teachers followed. The hallways felt different. Not lighter. Not yet. But less weighted. Aaron sat in class near the window. Mia entered with her backpack and a small smile. She wasn't humming, but she wasn't afraid either. Aaron leaned closer. "She's gone." Mia nodded. That evening, at Daniel's house, they had spaghetti for dinner. Clara brought over dessert, banana pudding, Mia's favorite. The three of them sat around the table. Can I bring the bunny to school on Monday? Mia asked. Daniel smiled. You can bring whatever makes you feel safe. She looked thoughtful. I don't think I need it as much anymore. Clara placed a hand over hers. You're allowed to heal slowly. Mia nodded, stirring her pudding. Outside, the wind moved the curtains gently. Inside, something else moved, subtler than wind, but stronger, hope. Monday morning felt like a sunrise after a long storm. The gates of Oakwood Elementary creaked open at 7:30 a.m. A few clouds lingered in the sky, but the light filtering through the leaves had a softness that hadn't been there before. Daniel stood by the fence, hands in his pockets, watching. Mia walked beside him with her backpack tight against her shoulders. In her hand, she carried the stuffed bunny, not as a shield, but as a choice. I want to bring him today, she'd said at breakfast. Then bring him, Daniel replied, not because I'm scared. Just because I can. He smiled and squeezed her shoulder. Inside classroom 4B, the desks had been rearranged. A substitute teacher stood at the board, Miss Karen Tanaka. She had a warm smile and a calm voice that carried without needing to raise it. She welcomed the students one by one, learning their names quickly, gently. Aaron arrived early. He didn't sit by the window this time. Instead, he pulled his desk closer to Mia's. Morning, he said. Morning, Mia replied. And for the first time in weeks, her voice was steady. Miss Tanaka greeted the class and wrote 3 words on the board: kindness, courage, curiosity. Today, she said, we're going to start again. Not from the beginning, but from a better place. At recess, a group of girls invited Mia to play tag. She hesitated, then glanced at Aaron, who nodded encouragingly. She stood slowly. Then ran. Laughter followed. Not loud. Not showy. But real. From the teacher's lounge, Gomez and Clara watched through the glass. She's coming back, Clara whispered. No, Gomez said softly. She's moving forward. That afternoon, Daniel returned to the school for a scheduled meeting with Principal Morton. I've received word from the district, Morton said, sliding a file across the table. There will be an external review of all personnel practices. They're bringing in child psychologists for 4B. Daniel nodded. Good. I assume you'll want to transfer her to another school? Morton asked. Daniel shook his head. No. Running won't teach her strength. Staying, when it's safe, that will. Morton looked surprised, but said nothing more. That evening, Mia sat on the floor of her room, arranging her pencils by color. She wore headphones, listening to music while humming softly. Clara entered with a cup of warm milk. Want to talk about your day? Mia paused the music. Maybe tomorrow, she said. Today, I just want to feel normal. Clara kissed her forehead. That's more than enough. Outside, Daniel stood on the porch. His phone buzzed. A message from Gomez, parent meeting scheduled Wednesday. 18 attendees confirmed. We're forming the circle officially. Daniel replied, let's build it right this time. He looked up at the stars beginning to pierce the dusk sky. The war was over, but the rebuilding had just begun. Wednesday evening. The library at Oakwood Community Center glowed with warm lights. 17 parents gathered around a long table. Some held coffee cups. Others, printed agendas. Most wore quiet determination on their faces. Daniel stood beside Miss Gomez, who had coordinated the logistics. Clara sat beside him, hands folded on her lap. At the head of the table was a blank flip chart. On it, someone had written in bold marker, "Protect. Prevent. Rebuild." "This isn't about revenge," Daniel began. "It's about never letting this happen again." A man across the table, Mr. Harry, Carrick's father, stood next. "My son still wakes up at 3 a.m. some nights. If we don't fix the system, another teacher like her will find a way back in." Gomez spoke. "We propose a three-phase approach. Step 1, mandatory mental health evaluations for all students in 4B. Step 2, anonymous reporting channels for every student. Step 3, a permanent parent advisory board with voting power." A low murmur of agreement circled the room. A mother raised her hand. "Can we also advocate for training? For teachers? Not just punish bad ones, but help others learn trauma-informed care?" "Yes," Clara said, her voice firm. "That's part of rebuilding." The meeting ended at 9:15 p.m. Before they left, each person signed a simple declaration: "We will be the circle. For our kids. And the ones who can't speak yet." Aaron's mom, Miss Gomez, stayed behind to stack the chairs. Daniel helped her. "You think it'll work?" she asked quietly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then, even in war, what mattered most wasn't winning. It was protecting the people who couldn't fight. She smiled. "Then we're on the right battlefield." Friday. A week since Holloway's removal, Mia stood in front of her class holding a storybook. It was her turn for show and tell. Her hands didn't shake. "This book is called The Rabbit Who Waited," she said. "He didn't run when things got scary. He stayed. And he helped others not be scared too." She smiled at Aaron. He smiled back. After class, Aaron showed Mia a sketch. It was a cartoon version of her stuffed bunny, standing tall like a superhero. Mia laughed. "Can I keep it?" she asked. Aaron nodded. "It's yours." During lunch, Gomez quietly handed out new flyers to the kids. "Your voice matters. If something feels wrong, tell someone. Even if it's scary. You are not alone." Each flyer included a QR code that led to a confidential reporting form. In the hallway, teachers had new posters on the wall. "Safe classrooms start with listening." Clara visited the class and sat in the back. She watched Mia raise her hand twice, once to answer, once to ask a question. She didn't hesitate either time. After school, Clara met with Miss Tanaka. "She's starting to laugh again," Clara said. Miss Tanaka smiled. "She's helping others laugh too." That evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Daniel and Mia planted a new sapling in their backyard. It was a gift from the parents' group. "What kind of tree is it?" Mia asked. "An oak," Daniel replied. "Strong. Patient. And it grows no matter how many storms it faces." Mia knelt beside the roots, pressing the soil with her palms. "Like me?" Daniel smiled. "Exactly like you." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. 1 week after the circle formed, Oakwood Elementary felt like a different place. Mia stood by the window, watching the phoenix tree sway. Its leaves glowed gold in the afternoon sun. She felt the breeze on her face, and for the first time, she didn't think of Miss Holloway. She thought of her friends, of the new drawings on the hallway walls, of her father waiting outside. During art class, Mia painted a house, not her dream house, but the house she lived in. But she painted it with brighter windows, with laughter coming from them. The door wide open, Aaron peeked over. "That's your house?" "Yes. Looks like a happy place." It is now. At the district headquarters, Gomez and Daniel met with policy advisors. They handed over a thick report, transcripts, recordings, medical logs, signatures. It wasn't an accusation. It was a blueprint. What do you want? The advisor asked. Systemic change, Daniel said. So no child walks home in silence ever again. At bedtime, Mia whispered, "Do you think she'll come back?" Daniel paused. Some people don't disappear. But that doesn't mean they have power anymore. Mia nodded, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Okay. She turned and fell asleep without the bunny. Spring arrived, the school garden began to bloom. So did Mia. She joined the school newsletter club. Her first article was titled, "Listening Saves Lives." Her words were short. Simple. But powerful. When someone hurts you and you're scared to speak, that's not your fault. You are not weak. The ones who listen, they give your words wings. The principal posted it on the school website. Gomez, reading it at home, cried softly. Erin helped Mia edit her second piece. Do you think people read this? She asked. Yeah. And even if they don't, we wrote it. That's the brave part. Miss Tanaka gave them both small badges, voice carriers. You've reminded this school how to listen. She said. The circle hosted its first public workshop, How to See the Signs. Clara stood on stage, sharing her mistakes, her regrets, and her resolve. Daniel spoke about instinct, what it felt like to know something was wrong, before the evidence came. By the end, half the room had tears in their eyes, and in the back row, a quiet voice whispered, "Thank you." June, the final day of the school year, in classroom 4B, the desks were decorated with goodbye notes and crayon cards. Laughter bounced off the walls. Mia handed Miss Tanaka a folded letter. "Thank you for being kind without asking why I needed it." Tanaka hugged her tightly. "You made me want to be a better teacher." The closing ceremony was simple, but when Mia stepped up to receive her Courage Award, the entire gym stood. Even Daniel had to blink fast. Afterward, Erin walked beside Mia under the trees. "Do you still think you're like a bunny?" She thought, "No. I think I'm like the oak tree now." Why? Because even when no one believed it would grow, it did anyway. That night, Mia placed her bunny on the shelf, not to forget, but to remember, and in the silence before sleep, she whispered, "I'm not scared anymore." Daniel, standing at the doorway, closed his eyes. She had returned, but more than that, she had risen. The light they fought for wasn't loud, it didn't shine in spotlights, but it stayed. Even when the world went dark, and that was enough.